everyone. We just did a podcast episode together, and then Stephen and I were just chatting about the process of channeling and the massive evolution that's happened in my journey with Auron. And Stephen was asking me some really cool questions that we thought you would be interested in. So we've decided to create another episode, which is basically an interview, chat about the process of the evolution of channeling. So what do you want to know?
So I know that, I know your process of connecting with Auron has evolved in recent times. I guess if you wouldn't mind just speaking a little bit about what it's been like in the past and how that's really transformed into this very moment for you.
It's been really interesting. I think Auron has even said in the podcast that I, Maida, had this idea that channeling was a skill and like riding a bike. Once you know how to ride a bike, you always know how to ride a bike. And so my idea of it was that I would always have to do the same things inside of myself to allow the energy to come through. And I don't know what it's like for other people that channel, but for me, it's been changing a lot and really quickly, especially in the recent past. So initially, I had no idea what I had to do. They would just kind of like land in me somehow. And then gradually, as I started to choose to do it more consciously, I had this whole rigmarole of things that I would do inside of myself, because I think I tried them a few times and it worked. And then I wasn't sure which parts of it worked and which parts didn't. So I just would do this whole big, massive, long list of things inside of myself. Like I would feel like I would open the top of my head and then my head would get a little bit bigger, and then I would like invite Auron in. My heart would activate in a particular way. Then I would feel like it's almost like if I was a pair of pants and Auron was putting me on, like I would feel like they went all the way to my left foot and then came up my leg, and then all the way to my right foot and then came up my leg. It's like I could feel them kind of coming into my body. And then I would feel this kind of ungrounded sense. And so then I would like feel like I was drawing a cord from my root chakra down into the earth to be like more anchored. And a few other things as well. Like a few times I got inspiration to call on like the energy of Uluru, which is like a really earthy energy in the center of Australia, and like mountain energies and stuff, which is not something that I'm familiar with, but I felt inspired to do that. Gradually, a lot of that's dropped away. And I've done a lot of, like, Auron does healings on me sometimes as well to sort of shift my channel and my ability to perceive things. And I've talked about how I've been playing with Auron around more specific information, and they did a healing on me recently around that, kind of clearing my channel. And it was a healing that was shared actually, so that there's a podcast episode that will have been released by the time you hear this, that you can go back and listen to and receive the same healing that they did for me. And if you're not a channel, what it will do is still clear your channel for your intuitive guidance for all of you. And since that's happened, the process of bringing him through is totally different. So all I did this time was I feel like my head naturally, when I have the intention to channel, I don't have to do it so much now. It just kind of happens when my intention is set. Like, okay, it's time to channel. Like I sit back, I relax my body, I take a couple of breaths and I kind of wiggle around to feel as much at ease in myself as I can. And then my head just kind of feels like it gets as big as the universe, which feels amazing. My heart felt like it got activated. My heart always feels activated when I channel. That's one thing that's constant. But I used to try and activate it. Now it just kind of activates itself. And then I sort of felt them come in, but before they used to come kind of into my body. Now I feel like they come into the space, like they're in this whole space, and I'm just a part of the space that they're in. And it felt like, I think I mentioned it in the podcast episode, it felt like I was so grounded and so earthed and so embodied that it felt like they're in the space and I'm connected to them. So I feel big. I feel like Maida, I feel big. And I felt like half of me was buried deep into the earth because that's how grounded I was. And the rest of me was kind of up towards the ceiling. And then I hear the first few sentences. So throughout the channeling, I don't hear things. They just kind of come through and out. But to get me started, I always hear the first few sentences of what they're going to say. So the first bit of me channeling is me repeating what I've heard. And then it's like it clicks, it's like it goes boop, and then from then I don't hear anything. It just kind of comes out.
So that hearing bit, has that always been the case? You hear the first little bit and then start channeling?
Yeah. But I don't like, so I was an intuitive energy healer for, I don't know, 10, 15 years or something. And I used to always hear like the information that was coming through for my clients. So I'm familiar and comfortable with that. But it's like a different form of channeling. It's almost like I've got to just trust to start speaking. So it's like that my little training wheels for that session. It's like, this is the thing. So just go and then we'll meet you as you're moving. So I just say whatever the first thing is. And it's normally like, we're here and ready, or we're happy to play, or, whatever. And I've got no idea what's going to come after that. And then once I'm already pedaling, like once I've already committed, once I'm doing it, the rest just kind of goes. Bleh.
It's like jumping into the flow.
Yeah. It's like I started, and I can, when they speak, usually they speak when they speak. Like I have no say if they're going to interrupt someone, if they're not going to interrupt someone, because I know that I do the best channeling when I don't hold back in any way. Like I just let it flow. I could pull it back, but I haven't, because I know that that's not the best way. And so I feel like I just have to start, and then that thing clicks in, and I have to trust that I say the first bit and that they're going to catch me. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I guess from there, so from what I'm understanding so far, it's like originally when things started out, there was more of like a list of things that you'd move through that would allow you to eventually allow Oron to just kind of drop in. And this was more into your body. Mm-hmm. But whereas now there's more of this, like, it's I guess you could say more intuitive. You kind of allow yourself to just have a few things, maybe a few significantly less things that you do to allow them in, but you're feeling them more in the general space that you're in. Yeah. And I feel like I've also been a witness to that as well, just in this group, in the group I'm in with you, right? Where when you're facilitating certain energies, sometimes they just come in and you don't even call them forward.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that I was just thinking when you were talking then. So what I realize now, you know the story of Dumbo and the feather? So Dumbo thought he could fly when he held a feather, but it was just a trick. He just could fly. It's just that the feather gave him the confidence to be able to fly. So I feel like all the rituals that I used to do inside of myself were for me. They weren't actually getting me in the state, but they were what made me think I was getting in the state. Because what I realize in hindsight is there are ways that I've been channeling for ages that aren't what we call formal channeling. Like I would speak to intuitive friends in a conversation and some piece of wisdom would fall out of my mouth and they go, you're channeling. And I'm like, oh, am I? Okay. But I was just in flow of conversation. And then also in my client sessions, one-on-one, what I've realized is if I'm thinking, then I'm not in flow. So in my deep, like beautiful conversations about the nature of the universe that I have with my close people and in sessions with people, if I'm working out, should I say this or should I say that? That's not when I'm magical. I'm magical when I'm not processing through my mind and I'm just flowing and moving and responding. And so there are ways that we all channel, but we tend to think of formal channeling as, I'm going to get Oron now and Maida's not here and then Oron's. But it's not as neat as that. Oron is with me all the time, and all of us are supported energetically by all kinds of energies. And Oron and I have a particular connection, and they're with me whether I realize or not. Like I don't have to. It's not like they take over because they're blended with me, but also. I don't know how much I need to do any of the things that I feel like I need to do to call them in because they're with me all the time anyway. It's just that there are ways that I can intend to go much deeper into that allowing.
Gotcha. I guess that kind of just leads me to the question of, I guess, maybe going into like when Oron first came into your field, like, what was that experience like for you? Like, was there like, did you question that at all? What were you feeling, and were you more curious? Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that.
The first time they came through and then they were gone, I'm pretty sure my first words were, "What the fuck was that?" Because it was very different to what I'd experienced before. And like, I've always been intuitive. I've always been kind of connected, but I'd never before had that feeling that I could answer any question about the nature of the universe, because I didn't know with my mind all the details about the nature of the universe. So the feeling that I got was I lay on a massage table with an intuitive friend of mine who's a masseuse, and I just felt my consciousness shift in some profound way that I hadn't experienced before. And I just felt, literally the feeling was that I could answer any question about life in the universe. And lucky I was with a friend who was intuitive, and I did say to her, I just feel weird in my head. Can you just ask me any question about the nature of love in the universe? And she said, why do we struggle to love ourselves so much? And like a fucking great genius flowing answer fell out of my head. And so I knew that I wasn't allowed to, not that I wasn't allowed, I knew that the best answer would come through if I didn't think. Like I wasn't to think of an answer. And if I did, the state that I knew that I was in would disappear. And that, no big deal. But I managed to somehow just start talking without even any consciousness that I was channeling. I didn't know what was happening. And it was really quite magical. And then after that, I was having massages with her once a week. We just put the phone on record just in case good stuff came, and good stuff always came. Every Wednesday at 2:00, Oron had an appointment with me because I was getting a massage. And they said later, I think it was shared in the podcast, they said that it's not a coincidence that they first came through when I was on a massage table, because I respond really well to massages, and I've trained myself on a massage table to really deeply let go before the massages even start. And so that's what kind of allowed it. So I practiced in that space for a while, and then I started just recording myself and seeing what would happen.
That's absolutely incredible. And I just want to say, I think it's really fascinating how the first question that ever came in was one with regard to love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why we struggle to love ourselves, right? Because I feel like Oron speaks so much about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that's interesting is like that was such a pertinent question for every human on the planet. It was like I was so lucky that, well, I guess it was orchestrated. I don't know. The person that I was with was someone who would ask that caliber of question. And it's interesting too, because at the start, when I first started the podcast, I tried to control the people that I invited to come on, because I thought that the podcast had to be, this is so interesting, really general in nature so that everybody would relate to it. Like I didn't want people going, asking specific questions about their specific lives, because I, in my head, thought that wouldn't be as relatable for everybody. And it's interesting because I was just speaking to you before we started recording about the fact that I've been playing with Oron around getting the material now to be more specific, like more personalized. And that's something that's evolving and growing too. So my perception and my experience of it has been growing and evolving too, not just the ways that I bring them through and not just the quality of the energy, like all of it is just continually evolving. So who the fuck knows where it's going to kind of go. And I'm excited to see, because it's so fun and awesome.
Yeah, I guess from there, I'm like, yeah, nothing immediately is coming in.
That's okay. I think I have one final thing that I want to say really clearly, which is that, like, I really love myself, right? But I'm not special in a way that I am chosen to be a channel. What I have that allows it is that I've trained myself into a level of value and love of self, and so I feel worthy of things. And I also have trained myself in a level of not trying to control. I'm not perfect at it, but oh my God, compared to how I was, and trusting the energetics. Like my career as a healer for 15 years really trained me in that. Doesn't mean you need to do 15 years of training to become a healer, but it's really, I used to think that people like Esther Hicks were chosen. That's what I used to think. But it's not that. Like, everybody channels all the time, every day. We just don't classify as that. Like, when you get inspiration, if you like say a really funny thing or give a good bit of advice or call a friend at the right time, like, we're all doing it always. And it's not just some rare individuals who are externally chosen for that. But if you want to be a channel in this way, which lots of people have approached me and said that they do, you can't cling at it. Because same as me, like 10 years ago when I desperately wanted to be a channel, like if you're trying to make something happen, you're not a match to the energetics that's required of allowing and flow for the information to come through. So unpacking that and playing with that is massive, not just in terms of allowing the energetics of channeling, but the energies of life. So no one that does this stuff is special or chosen, but they will have done a level of work for self-love, I would say, self-trust and trust of the energy. Because to speak without knowing what the fuck is coming out of your mouth, especially when it's controversial stuff, like you got to be willing to do that if you want this form of channeling. But also you don't need it. Like you can just connect to the energetics in lots of other ways. But that's just addressing the people who have specifically said to me, how do I become a voice channel like that? That would be my tip. Play with the self-love aspect, play with the allowing aspect, and with the faith aspect in yourself, the trust to be able to talk without knowing what you're going to say. Feeling like you're not driving, but you're not separate either.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, because the other thing that Oren have said, my other misunderstanding that I had was that I had to not taint it, that I had to stay separate, that I had to be quiet inside of myself. And that's the opposite, because that's like minimizing and trying to squash my energy and thinking that I, Maida, as a human, will taint the energy. Like, how fucked up was that? But that's what I thought. I thought I had to be a clear channel so that the thing was really powerful. And Oren have told me that it's the, I guess, co-creation. It's like their energy blends with my energy and goes out in a particular way that attracts particular people. And, you know, if they were being channeled by someone else or if another energy is being channeled by someone else, it's like a co-creation. The energetics blend and then go out. So I'm not going to be for everybody, but the next person's not going to be for everyone either. And that's how we meet everyone's needs.
You're kind of like a beacon for anybody who's willing to come toward it.
Yeah. Who resonates with this particular, because it's quite a particular kind of energy and it's evolving and it's changing. But like it won't be for everyone. But for those people that it's really for, like it touches really deep. And like me too, it touches me really deep.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of how I found you. I first found you through Insight Timer, but then discovered the podcast and was like, this is incredible. This is exactly what I needed. I mean, but I guess one last question I will ask, and you can take it from wherever from there. But I mean, I know you said that there was this level of like wanting to be a channel initially, of wanting to bring this about. I guess what scale had to tip in order for that to really start happening?
I had to let it go completely. I got to the point where I forgot that I wanted to be a channel. I let it go for a long time, actually. And then I guess what happened is I was still on my journey of self-love. Like if you don't really love yourself, it's hard to be a vibrational match for the kind of energy that concentrates love through you. So I think that the two things that happened is I let go of what I thought it wasn't going to happen. So that's how I let it go. But then I wasn't, for a while I was like, about it. And then I was fine. Like I was happy. Like my life was really awesome without it happening. I wasn't looking for something to give me purpose or make me complete or feel like that would make me better or anything. And then the self-love piece as well. So again, we're back to the same thing. So it's the love, the not controlling and the allowing. So I've been building those skills in myself consciously for a really long time.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Thank you. This was really fun because I don't know, I don't ask myself these questions, and so it's good to ponder them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for allowing me to pose these questions to you. Yeah.
Thank you for being willing to do it publicly so other people can hear the answers.
Oh.